Wrestling Sheet Radio. I'm your host, ProWrestlingSheet.com editor-in-chief Ryan Satin, here with my co-host, Jamie Iovine.
The one and only.
Yeah, definitely the only today.
Yeah.
It feels so empty when it's just the two of us.
But I like this. It's almost like a Larry King like his show.
Fair enough. It's definitely more of a one-on-one environment.
Just like this the entire time.
Did you see he's getting divorced again?
Yeah.
7th wife.
I didn't know it was 7.
It's a 7th wife, and he filed for divorce.
And then, but did you see what his soon-to-be ex said?
No.
It's kind of fucked up.
Oh, no, I didn't. No, I only saw that he filed for divorce.
I think I may have misread this, but from what I read, I think she said, hold on, I'm going to bring it up, but she said, I am not, because I think like there was like terms and agreements like for the divorce, and she agreed to all of them because she said, I don't want to fight a dying man.
Oh God,
which I think is
oh God, yeah. Pull that up. I'll explain where Eli is. Eli can't be here this week. He had some kind of a dental thing that he said he got an old root canal got messed up out of nowhere. Like he started feeling pain, so he is dealing with that. Kevin had some stuff that he had to attend to, so it's just going to be Jamie and I today, and it's
still gonna be great.
It's still gonna be great.
Why don't you? I mean, of course we're gonna miss them, but we're able to handle things ourselves.
We are able to handle things ourselves.
Where the hell is this?
I tried to get Rachel Sam Evans to come in, even though it's been tough because of her work since the last time. Larry King's wife, Sean, I'm not going to fight a dying man. Oh man. Wild.
I mean, he is old.
He's very old. That's why I'm surprised. So I was like, what? You don't just want her there for the end? Like, I don't know. I know he's like not dying, but like maybe. I guess from what she's saying,
we're told Larry was at Cedars-Sinai at the same time John Singleton was in ICU. Our sources say doctors told his soon-to-be ex that Larry might have a short time to live.
Do you think that I wonder if he's divorced because he doesn't want
her to have all the money.
Yeah. That's even shadier, crazy. Oh man, that's dramatic. But Rachel Sam Evans, she told me that she can come back. She couldn't do it today, but we're gonna have Rachel on again in the near future. She's gonna be coming back. I missed having a female perspective on here sometimes, so I'm excited to get her back in here. But this week did have a really big thing happen, and we should just get into it. And that is the fact that NXT is going to be airing on USA Network now. It had been rumored for a while. It had been rumored that it was going to be Fox Sports for a while, but it ultimately landed at USA. Now, from what I've heard, they wanted it to be at Fox Sports, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, and you had mentioned that the
college basketball thing.
You had mentioned that WWE, this wasn't a confirmed thing, but from what you were assuming was that WWE was going to try and make an offer for NXT on USA on Fox. On Fox.
Yeah, and you might be talking about something that we had in a private conversation, so I'm going to cut you off before you say anything else.
I assume. I didn't say this was fact or nothing.
But from what I've been able to put together, it seems like they wanted Fox Sports, but they want Wednesday. Wednesday, in their opinion, is their day. They've been on Wednesday for a while now.
NXT's day.
NXT's day, yeah. That they feel Wednesday night is NXT night, and so they want it on Wednesday night, and Fox Sports can't do Wednesday nights. They already have college basketball. They already have a deal for college basketball. It's a big part of the network. So couldn't happen, so goes to USA. Now, it's going to start on September 18th. It's going to be live, and it's going to be 2 hours. I saw your face a little bit when I mentioned that Wednesday night is NXT's night. I've seen a lot of back and forth on this, and I don't really.
It's hard to say because you're trying to make it a night on cable television. It doesn't have a night. If you want to really think about it, because I really think that appointment-based viewing, other than the fact if you want to watch it live, I think it's almost an archaic form of thinking nowadays. It was almost like when we were talking about when Evolve and AEW were going back to back. Was it really that much of an issue? Like, could you really not have just watched one first and then the other one on demand afterwards?
For me, coverage-wise, no. It's
for
the regular fan.
Yeah, for the majority of the world,
it shouldn't be an issue.
Yes.
It shouldn't be.
And I don't, in the whole, it's our night, do you really need a night? If you really just put it out and then Because you got to think you're not thinking of this in the regular consumer's way.
No.
You're not thinking of that. You're thinking of this in the way that you got to keep up with it because it's your job,
Yes.
which is fine. I understand that, but it's not. I'd say for the 80 to 90% of the fan base, it's not. Where they're gonna hey, there are some diehard fans who watch NXT that would rather watch GCW first. I'm not saying that's the majority, but they exist.
Yeah.
And it's just a little, especially since they have never been on cable TV yet.
Well, they've had specials on USA, but but I'm not gonna. That's nitpicking.
Yes, and it's our night. I think if they had any sort of presence before that, sure.
Well, I think that it's less view in their eyes when they say our night. It's less of our night on cable TV and more our night in terms of the wrestling audience. The wrestling audience has been trained to think that NXT at Wednesday night you watch NXT.
So to their logic, you could have Thursday and Friday. And Saturday, if you want, because I don't know anybody who would, unless there's a takeover, and then or unless there's a pay-per-view, so you can't have Sunday. So it's kind of slim pickings.
Oh no, I do agree with you in terms of the fact that it is slim pickings. What you also you got to be smart. Go into the AEW side of things, not necessarily the NXT side of things, but the AEW side of things. You have to pick a day that people are actually going to watch television.
Yeah.
I know you said that you don't feel like destination viewing is still a thing, but I do. I believe that. There are a few things that are still considered destination viewing. The top percent is the really popular shows, the Game of Thrones, which is I know it's done, but those types of shows. And then beneath that, it's live sports. Live sports is still, a commodity that people watch as appointment viewing. That's why Raw and Smackdown got such big money for the rights to the show.
Yeah, but do you think that the reason for tuning in is the same?
What do you mean? Say that again. What do you mean?
For instance, when you're watching a show that is I don't know, sporting event, for instance. There are a lot of things that are faceted into it because it shows where your team is going on. Let's say if it's the playoffs, then I get that. That's appointment-based because what happens is actually going to affect not only just how the rest of the season goes, how the next game is going to go. And as we know, a lot of cases in professional wrestling, wins and losses aren't really a thing. It's not so much to me, and this is just how I am, and maybe I'm not thinking of it as I'm not preaching what I say and trying to think what the regular fan would think. Is it's whenever a new show happens, I never feel the need to one doesn't place over the other in terms of urgency.
Yeah.
It's more so about what I want to watch at that time.
Yeah, you're really good at that. Honestly, this is one of those places where you and I differ so much. I get home and I'm like, what's on tonight? Gotta watch this, gotta watch that.
No,
you're like, I now have time to watch TV. What's on my list? And I gotta pick and choose what I want to actually do.
For instance, I came home from some day thing one time, and last weekend, a day party, and I had a little buzz, but I wasn't ready to go to bed yet because it was 8:00 at night, and so I had my whole night ahead of me, and there was so much of the G1 that I still have to watch, and I could have watched that, and I probably should have watched that, but for some reason, I just felt like watching some death matches that night. So I turned on the GCW show, it wasn't even the GCW show. It was that random horrible death match event that they had at ICW or something like that. And I'll probably watch G1 tonight, when I'm home and just hanging out. And
I think to the people who are more like me, because you don't even have cable, right?
No.
I think the people like me who have cable at home, one of the other determining factors, because even for me, I sometimes just binge watch NXT because I've read all the results. I know what's going to happen. I don't have to watch NXT every week because A, I already know what happened because I read the results because I had to, and B, it's not live, so it's not something I have to watch. I can just go binge watch 4 episodes right before TakeOver, and so I think that people like me who look at their DVR when they get home. The DVR is the thing they check. Time to eat dinner, what's on my DVR? Get home from work, what's on my DVR? I think having the 2 shows on there is going to be huge. I think that's going to make it a destination. When people are DVRing something, that makes it destination viewing.
I mean,
when they're streaming things, it's easy to get lost in the shuffle.
I mean, there's also if we're arguing that, then we're going to go into this whole other debate about whether or not cutting the cord is going to be the new norm.
It will. It will.
Because then, the whole method of schedule-based programming is
on the way out.
Yeah, in my opinion.
No, it is. as much as I cling on to it,
Yeah.
I can't deny that. It's in. I want to say 10, but probably 5 to 10 years.
I'd say less.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I say 5 to 10 years. Like it'll be that way. It'll soon be the on-demand type stuff, which is gonna be weird.
Yeah, it'll be very well. I mean, it's not so much for me anymore because I haven't had cable since 2015. But you
It's been that long?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah,
That's crazy.
I mean, but you're still very integrated into the whole viewing method. It's definitely. I understand where they're coming from in terms of saying this is our night. We can't move it. It's always going to be Wednesday, because I mean, they really have a good way of keeping everything right after each other. You know, I mean, their move from taping Tuesdays, airing Thursdays, from now just having it live Monday and Tuesday, I think is better there. Retention, personally.
I like the Friday better.
Do you?
Yeah, personally.
I like knocking the wrestling out before the weekend, personally.
I guess that's fair. I guess you go out once again. You go out on Fridays more than me. I guess I hate like so many things in a row. It's like I feel like I have to watch it. I guess even when I wasn't covering it, it was like every day. So I like when there's like a little bit of a break in between. So then it'll be like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I have like 2 days in the middle to kind of like breathe.
The extent of how long I'll wait to watch something is, like, for instance, it has to be before the next Monday. Like,
Fair.
for instance, like I can't, like, if it's Raw on the first Monday of the month, and then I haven't watched it yet, but the second Monday is coming up like tomorrow, I'll either watch it like just to get it out of the way, or I'll completely skip it and I'll just go into the second one.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
But I can't have it last longer than that.
I think this will be a good split. I think this will, like, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I feel like will be it'll be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. God, just a short amount of time. There's gonna be so much like extra stuff going on because there's gonna be the AEW show that you're gonna have to add into your weekly viewing. Also, the WWE studio show on Fox Sports is going to be in there, which is probably going to be cool. Where it's going to have, like, I'm assuming, stuff that you're going to need to watch. Man, TV's going to be wild in just like 2 months.
Yeah.
It's going to be so crazy with wrestling. Are you looking forward to NXT being 2 hours? Do you think that adding the extra time takes anything away from the show that people love?
I just hope that this isn't, because I've loved the runtime of TakeOver so much. I think they're programmed so well. I just worry that they're going to start becoming like the rest of the pay-per-views, and they're like 4 hours long, which I kind of hope they don't, because I don't know if I brought this up last time on the show, but I really think wrestling is entering in a place right now where it's becoming, when I say not as accessible, it's clearly accessible as much as anybody wants to find wrestling. It's not hard to find it. But when I mean the entry level is going higher.
That makes sense.
For instance, you want to introduce somebody to a wrestling show, right? Say you want to take them to a dope show. Chances are that show's at least 3.5 hours long.
Yep.
That's a long time for somebody who has never seen wrestling before.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to, it's like...
I mean, especially just look at, like, the internet, and you see, like, when they announce a movie is going to be 3 hours, the internet's like, what?
Yeah, at least you're in a comfy chair, like...
You've got, like, snacks.
Yeah.
And it's not hot.
Yeah.
It's air conditioned.
I mean, it's like, for instance, I'm having hard times finding people to go to WrestleMania with, as crazy as that sounds.
I believe it.
Because it's so long.
I believe that.
Like, nobody wants to sit there for 8 hours.
No, nobody.
And
because the person you went last, didn't they leave early?
He left, yeah. He left with 3 matches left.
You gotta be you must be so pissed. Like,
I wasn't. I understood why, because I
guess I'm pissed, like, bummed. Like,
I was bummed,
man.
but I understood it. Like, I was like, if I had no investment like he didn't in any of these guys, I'd want to leave too.
Well, that's why I used to never take people to PWG with me, because it was like, you're gonna sit there for so long, it's gonna be so hot, and yes, it's awesome. But if you don't already love this, you might be kind of miserable for a little while.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, whenever, like, for instance, I did bring somebody who had never been to a show to NXT TakeOver once. And they loved it.
Yeah.
It was quick, hour and 45-ish, and because without ads and shit like that. And we were at the bar by 10 o'clock.
I actually felt like this takeover was a little too long.
It was. They added 2 more matches or something, right?
They added the extra women's match.
Yeah.
and then the main event went like almost a full hour.
Yeah, I think the event, because when I saw that the main event there was still 45 to like an hour and a half left. I mean, hour and 10 left in the show. I even thought to myself, Takeover is still happening? Like it's usually programmed extremely well.
I'm with you in that regard, and it probably will have to go to 3 hours, I would imagine, because it can't be the same length as their weekly show, their takeovers. So I would imagine it has to go. I'm guessing that's why the last one was 3 hours, because they're thinking like that's going to have to be the new norm because our other show's going to be 2 hours now.
And correct me if I'm wrong.
3 hours is okay though, I feel.
I mean, well, it's the standard now, I guess.
Yeah. If it's a good for takeover, not the main roster. I think 3 hours is a long time. The main roster is a little slower. Takeover's pretty fast.
The
for the most
current
part.
weekly NXT show is still just an hour, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how they fill that whole other hour.
Well, and also, I mean, you know about TV industry and stuff like that. If you really look at it, it's actually an extra half hour they're adding to the show.
Yeah, with commercials.
Because commercials, and NXT has commercials already, and it's not a full hour always. So they're really adding like 30 extra minutes, which is helpful, because I feel like there's a lot of people like the Keith Lees and there's like Chelsea Green and Deonna Purrazzo who haven't even been on WWE or haven't even been on NXT TV yet, and they've been signed for a minute now, and there's a lot of wrestlers who could fill out that time that they have there.
It's always funny to me when I'll see NXT's Instagram page. They'll have like one of the house shows that they have at like one of those smaller venues and stuff, and you see all these people that you've never seen before.
Totally.
Like Baba Tumbe and shit like that. And you're like these guys would be good if they used them on television. Well,
that seems to be one of the things that people are wondering with the new show is if they're going to be
like has Stokely
showcasing more people like the Baba Tundes and all that kind of stuff, Deonna Purrazzo's, or are they going to move people from the main roster who are just not being used over to NXT, maybe former NXT guys that can have that work rate?
I saw that you really wanted Cesaro on there, and do you not think that that's a step back from the progress that they've made with him?
I don't, only because it's going to be on USA now. Like, it's going to be on the same channel that Raw and SmackDown are on. So, I mean, yes, less viewers maybe because it's new product and whatever. But man, more so. I don't see it as a demotion if they make him like the top dog like they used to do in NXT. Because man, back in the day when he was like the big boss in NXT and he was like the guy you had to get through to like break through to the top in the Sami Zayn match and William Regal and like all that kind of stuff. I loved Cesaro back then. So I feel like Triple H understands how to use Cesaro better than Vince McMahon.
Absolutely.
So that's the only reason. Do you think it's a demotion? Do you think that wrestlers will see that as a demotion?
I don't think anybody's really said what the vibe
structure?
What the presentation of NXT is going to be.
Well, from what I've been told, it's the same. From what I was told, you're going to see the same NXT that you saw on the network on USA Now. The only difference will be 2 hours live. That's about it. Like that. From what I was told, you're going to get the same work rate heavy program that you've been used to.
That must have been such a good deal. Because think about the production cost of that show. It can't be that much.
No, especially because they're not going to be on the road with it. They're staying at Full Sail.
Yeah, I mean that's all profit.
Meltzer reported that they got a $50 million deal, I believe, with USA
for a year. Or
I have to go look it up. I'm not sure.
It's like I said. It really because if it is still just the minors, but on just another platform. Then yeah, I do think it's still a bit of a demotion because I'm just genuinely curious how WWE is going to market NXT to a new audience.
Me too.
Like, for instance, okay, this is this new show on NXT. It's NXT. Oh, what is NXT? It's WWE. It is? Well, no, not really. It's sort of their minor league. Well, if it's their minor league, why do I want to watch it? So I'm talking to somebody who's never seen wrestling before.
I completely agree with you in that aspect. And also, to further muddle that is you go, this is their minor leagues. Well, why are they on the same channel as their other show? Well, but it's because they haven't moved up yet. Well, why haven't they moved up yet?
Yeah.
It's like, it's literally the same thing. And also, how are call-ups going to work if they're all on this? If it's not developmental anymore, if they're on the same network, if they're getting raises, if they're it's not developmental anymore. So there's going to be the weird shift change of like all of that.
And I thought that they would need that. I always thought that because to me NXT was always the place. Like if you were going to fuck up, you fuck up there.
Yep.
That's not the case anymore.
No.
And I thought, and I think, and I'm all for NXT being on another. I mean, wherever, as many eyes on as much wrestling as possible. That's my stance on everything. But I do think that NXT served a really good purpose.
Yeah, I agree and I disagree with you in two ways. One, I agree with you that it did serve a good purpose for a long time. I think that the earlier days of NXT, you could definitely mess up. That is the place where you were learning, kind of. There was a gradual shift, though, when takeovers became some of the more popular events in WWE, at least with the general wrestling public. And so I feel like that whole developmental thing of where you're learning has kind of shifted.
It is a little bit, but not that much. Because it is still, and because I was, and I learned this when I was actually at the company. And you really don't see until you see the numbers and you see in relation to network viewers versus cable viewers across the world. It's very different. Mm-hmm. And as much as, NXT is becoming, in some people's houses, the more popular brand than even Raw and Smackdown, it still does not have, well, now it will, but it still, to then didn't have the audience that Raw and Smackdown had. Not even close.
No, not even close.
So I think that it still was the place to cut your teeth.
No, totally. For what I think, and this is just my guess, with the whole tiered thing, the tiered WWE network that they already announced, how they're said that like they have a 12-month plan, and by the end of that year, not by the end of this year, but the end of their 12-month plan, that they tend to have a tiered WWE network with different price points. My guess is the regular price point will have a new show, like Evolve. And that it's going to be just like Evolve. It's going to be Evolve, and they're going to have indie guys mixed with their developmental talent. Because I bet you, I honestly believe that some of the guys they have sent out to the indies, like the Street Profits, like Babatunde, they grew a lot on the indies when they were told to go out there. And I guarantee you, Triple H saw that and went, you know what? They're kind of like learning the things that I wanted them to learn here by kind of like cutting their teeth on the indies a little bit. And I almost think that the WWE Network is going to become like a fight TV where it's going to have lots of indies on there.
100% it helps. I mean, because if you really think about it, if you perform for the Full Sail crowd and the Full Sail crowd alone, a lot of those guys are regulars.
Yep.
You're getting the same few people over and over
and look what it did for Adam Rose and Bo Dallas and all those guys were like, it seemed like they were over as hell at Full Sail, and then they got called up and got a rude awakening. So I think that Montez Ford and Dawkins are a perfect example of why that whole indie process has worked.
I mean, Matt Riddle, when he finally gets called up, I think so too. They let him do a bunch of stuff.
I don't think he's going to get called up anymore.
Not anytime soon?
Like I said, I wonder how this whole call-up thing is going to work now, because you would think if they're going to have their own show on USA Network, they can't have the whole same process of like, one day this guy's just going to be taken out of your storylines. That can't be the same anymore. It's not on the WWE Network. Triple H has a network execs to answer to. You would think they have to have people that are on the show. Like, I feel like Undisputed Era, Velveteen Dream, Matt Riddle, Bianca Belair,
Gargano and
Ciampa, they're not going anywhere. I feel like those six... Hero, we don't really see him anymore. Cassius Ohno. Those six, I feel like you're not seeing them on Raw and SmackDown for a long time now.
Maybe not immediately as much as they would. I mean, definitely not as immediate as it would have been.
Yeah.
But
Riddle would have been the next.
Yes, and I honestly don't think that I still think it's in his future. I still do.
I don't know. I honestly believe that in order to build, if you want to build this third brand, you got to have.
Sure, but you could have TV shows that have people get killed off all the time. I mean,
yeah,
it happens. The machine keeps moving.
Yeah, but you don't usually kill off a character right in the beginning.
No, not the beginning. But like I said, it's probably going to be just far.
I would say years.
Maybe.
To me that seems like a really silly thing to like move those people off if that's what you want to like. This is our core, like this is the people you're not going to see on Raw and SmackDown.
But as you know, wrestling is always about creating new stars and keeping the machine moving.
True.
And so I think that once WWE relies on anybody, because I don't ever think they rely. I mean, because then you're like, oh, well, they rely on whoever's the top guy, the guy time to draw tickets. Yes and no. I mean, I think they rely on him to kind of push the wagon, but I don't think that the entire fate of the company relies on one group of people.
Agreed. Absolutely.
I think that if anything, WWE is really good at rolling with the punches.
Well, they changed their business plan so that it wouldn't be the case anymore. It
Yes.
used to be that way, and then they were like, we don't want that. We don't want to have to rely on one guy anymore. That thing you sent me was Cena. Those gloves that
Those
were
are
big
whack.
fists are so funny.
It's weird though. They picked the most random props to make, like a fire extinguisher,
Sledgehammer.
a Triple H. There's two licensed products. It's the Triple H sledgehammer and the John Cena fists.
I liked them though. I don't know.
I don't know what they're for.
When I went to one time I did a holiday gift guide on the site, and there was a.
You did those inflatable.
Those are cool. The inflatable trash cans.
Those aren't the same thing though.
It's close.
They
The
made
inflatable trash can's way cooler.
like I said, they picked the worst things to make inflatable.
What would have been better?
What do you say? Like
But
garbage
those ones are already
cans.
taken.
What they copyright tables?
An inflatable table that breaks would be fire.
By
I don't even
Velcro.
know how you could do. Oh,
It's easy.
Velcro.
Yeah, by Velcro.
That's such a good idea. You should make that.
Yeah,
You should
okay.
pitch that one. You should pitch that one, Jamie. What do you? I know that I reported this week that things aren't changing. Do you believe that to be the case? Do you think that they'll let's say
Maybe at first.
right?
Maybe at first. But I can't see it staying exactly the same going forward.
No?
Especially if more sponsors could jump on, especially if they're making more money and they want to increase the show run.
I think it depends more on how good AEW does too.
Sure.
If they're like losing to AEW, then Vince is gonna be like, all right, I gotta roll up my sleeves here.
Yeah. I mean, but they also, whenever I see the NXT versus AEW type thing, it always is weird to me because I don't think that's an accurate like matchup.
What do you mean?
Maybe now
AEW versus NXT?
Yeah.
Because NXT is so much bigger?
No, because NXT is treated differently. NXT is treated as the minor leagues. AEW is treated as like their version of the majors.
See, I always felt less like NXT was their minor leagues, at least in the past couple of years, and more it transformed into their indie federation.
I think it's still the minor leagues, dude. I really do.
All right, fair enough.
I really still think it's still like I really still,
I mean, they sold out an arena
Sure.
and made it $1 million gate
Sure.
without piggybacking off of
Sure.
WWE recently.
I agree. But you can't nickel and dime compare it to WWE with Raw, SmackDown, WrestleMania. You can't. It's not even close.
Yeah.
And I think
But you don't think it's close to what the budget that AEW has?
in terms of like what NXT does with like takeovers,
Everything,
I'm
just
not
in
sure
general.
I'm not
like
sure.
I just feel like NXT and AEW are comparable in that aspect. How much they're spending on talent, you know.
I don't think you understand what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say in the sense that like it's almost like I think people at home might actually understand what I'm saying. It's more so like the way they're presented. It's like NXT
because AEW is trying to act like they're
the WWE equivalent.
they're the alternative to WWE.
Yeah.
But I feel like NXT kind of has that same vibe. Like they are the alternative to WWE.
Technically, but it's still under the umbrella.
Yeah,
you know?
but they're like, hey, you don't like what you're seeing there? You can watch our other thing that's like that's like the indies you love.
I don't know. It's just always been it didn't make sense to me. It's like if they really wanted to put them. I mean, if they really wanted to go head to head, they would have made it Raw versus AEW.
See, I disagree because I feel like AEW is going to be work rate heavy, and they're not as comparable that way. I
No.
feel like NXT is the work rate heavy WWE show, so
It
they
is.
wanted to go up against the Kenny Omegas and the Young Bucks and the Codys and all that kind of stuff. So it's like we have all the indie stars too that you love. You know, we also signed them to a contract. This is the major indies.
I see what you. I mean, I can.
Does that kind of make sense? What I'm
No,
saying?
I see what you're saying, but I still think that and you're not wrong. I just think that and this is all just perception.
Yeah, of course.
This is all just like how people see different things. I don't know. I just if AEW had some sort of evolve type thing, then it would make more sense to me. Because there's so much money that AEW has that's put into it.
Yeah.
You know, I think if it was another show filmed in front of 300 people at a college, then that's comparison.
I do believe that is going to have to change because it's going to look. If the people want to be like, this is a war, it's going to look silly when you're going to look at AEW and they're going to be in arenas and NXT is going to be a studio show.
Yeah, and it doesn't even look like it. It does look like it. It sounds like it too.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does.
And
it's definitely an intimate affair when you watch NXT TV.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I'm gathering is that the presentation is really different in the sense that one is more of a bombastic thing than the rest of them.
That makes sense. I'm glad that Moro's staying on the show too because I know that everyone there's a big concern that he wouldn't since his whole
he doesn't like dealing with Vince.
He doesn't like dealing with Vince, and I also think that the fact that he doesn't like dealing with Vince and announced that he is going to be on the AEW show, not the AEW, the NXT show, is also further proof that Vince isn't really going to be involved in the NXT show at all.
Speaking of people who have had issues with anxiety issues, mental health stuff as well, have we heard anything about Lars Sullivan lately?
Just from what I've heard, he seems to be doing good. I've heard he was injured. It wasn't mental health.
He was injured.
He was injured.
Oh,
he got injured.
Where he's been.
No, the reason he was gone is because he got injured. He, I forget off the top of my head. I have to look it up. But no, he suffered an injury that took him up, put him on the shelf for a good chunk of time.
That's a shame.
Yeah. He's I'm guessing. I'd have to go look it up. I don't know off the top of my head. I have to go look it up. But he definitely got injured. He's dealing with an injury.
When I say it's a shame, I mean, say what you you have your opinions about him or not, but I'm saying, like, it probably sucks for him. You know what I mean? That's two
oh, yeah.
halts.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
A super bummer. Super bummer for him. Okay, here's a less of a bummer story. WWE's getting a podcast network. What do you think about that? I thought this was super, super interesting news today that WWE, we do a wrestling podcast. There's like hundreds of wrestling podcasts. I'm shocked that it's taken them this long to get in the game to make a podcast.
It's interesting because they were, if you really think about it, WWE was one of the very first people to really jump on this whole streaming service thing. Sure, Netflix was around, but it was fairly new still.
They were one of the first big companies that really went all in on the.
I would say they were one of the first companies to get as many people as they did. 1 million subscribers.
But regardless, they're one of the earlier adopters of putting all their content on over the top platforms.
Like, for instance, I know Apple Music was having trouble, and even paid for Spotify has trouble getting those numbers.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper. And so I think I think there's something to be said about that for a company that's not necessarily known as the most technologically advanced. Those motherfuckers were using PCs for editing in 2015. Let me put it that way. And
I think Spotify is more now. Son of a bitch, sucks.
It's maybe.
It's like $12 now. It sucks.
Because doesn't it have the Hulu package with it now?
I didn't need the Hulu package. I was very fine with just Spotify.
That's funny. But it's. I think I always think it's funny that whenever when I saw, because I was around Apple Music when it was getting started, and when I saw the notice that like WWE, because it didn't launch that. Apple Music came maybe a few months after the WWE Network launched.
Sounds right.
Because I remember they were both announced at CES one year when I went, and I just thought it was so funny when they made their announcement that they had 1 million people, and you would think Apple, the most. Yeah. Everybody has something that as Apple that they still had issues getting a million subscribers to their streaming service.
They gotta have that now, though.
They do now, but it took them a minute. It took them much longer than WWE.
Really?
Uh-huh.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I guess, also with WWE, there was no other option. Like, you wanted to watch pay-per-view. It was different, too, because with WWE, it was like, your whole life you didn't watch pay-per-view. Maybe you did. I don't know. I rarely got pay-per-views growing up because they're fucking $50. Mm-hmm. Like, it was, hard to get a pay-per-view growing up. So, shit, that was, when that got announced, I was like, I'm just going to have my money forever. That was an easy go. I feel Apple Music is a little different. Although, having one of those streaming music things, I have Spotify. It was a game changer.
Yeah,
I can't believe that I spent hours upon hours downloading things.
And all who was the only person standing in the way of that? And it's not. I'm. Please don't take this wrong at all because we love the Jobs family.
Yeah,
but it was Steve.
Really?
He was so adamant about $1.99 per song. Or 99 cents, whatever it was. He was so adamant.
That was his baby.
It was his he didn't like. So many people came to him, my father included, about a subscription service, like one fee a month for everything. But he fought it until the day they put him in the ground.
So that's really the only reason that ended up happening because he passed away?
Yep.
Crazy. Yeah, because Spotify had been around for a minute at that point. I was there for the beta on Spotify. I remember.
No, it had been doing it, and there was like, look. The difference why Spotify is having trouble getting it so much. It's because there's millions of people on regular Spotify.
Yeah.
It's having trouble getting it. It's the same reason why YouTube is having hard time getting premium people, because once that whole free thing is out of the box, it's hard to put it back in.
Totally.
And and that's why Apple Music is getting a little more paid subscribers.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's funny. I've had Spotify since day one. And
like if you want to talk about users in general, Spotify has more.
Oh yeah.
Because it
had been around longer.
It's free.
Yeah, it's free.
Yeah.
I had it since day one, so I've never had the free version.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine listening to commercials on Spotify though and stuff.
People do it.
I know they all do. Can you have playlists and stuff in the free version?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I haven't.
But the Apple Music is good too. I like Apple Music.
They're both. I mean, honestly, it's apples and oranges in my opinion.
Pun intended.
I guess so. Yeah.
So the podcast network,
apples and limes.
The podcast network.
So wait, they're partnering with a distributor or
Endeavor? Here, I'll read the press release. Endeavor Audio's first entertainment studio in WWE, today announced plans to launch a new WWE podcast network with several superstar-focused series. The move into the audio space marks a first for WWE and is Endeavor's latest foray into exploring new podcast formats. Do you think that means?
I think what it is
wrestlers having their own podcasts?
Yes. I think what WWE sees is there's a rise in some talent getting their own stuff.
Hawkins and Ryder or stuff like that.
I mean, Woods doesn't have a podcast, but essentially it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. A show where they produces.
Where WWE doesn't get any money of that. Like,
no, they do.
WWE gets money off of
Woods?
Off of Figure It Out.
You mean Up, Up, Down, Down?
No, I'm talking about Zack Ryder's YouTube show.
No, that one.
The Major Brothers thing?
I don't think they make enough for them to get a cut of that. I guarantee you don't cut enough.
I know Up, Down, Down got assimilated recently, which I feel like that. I feel like Woods fought that tooth and nail for that for a little bit, but I think it's just them getting ahead of it. They see so many people getting up and doing their own stuff. They're like, okay, well, we need to monetize this somehow. You know, we can't just have these guys going off in the Wild West, because then also false narratives become a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that also. I mean, you got to think that with Bruce Pritchard and Eric Bischoff coming back into the fold, it was like we got like two really big podcasters here. Like maybe
and we're not making a dime.
We're not making a dime off their podcast. Yeah. Maybe we should have them do one for us too. I mean, I don't know if that's the case, but
did you see that announcement that Conrad made? I thought it was really like about a potential new podcast he's starting. Did you see that?
Only the Arn one.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Which is.
No, he is doing that. So it's not even a potential. He is doing that.
Because I know that he showed those 4 cozies and he showed the Arn one. And I thought
Arn announced it at the last Starcast.
Which is interesting. It's very interesting to me. Because of all the people you would think, okay, who would be a great radio person? Arn Anderson is not one of them.
He's like the last you'd think of.
So I think
Conrad claims that in the stuff that he's done with Arn in preparation, that Arn's like way more entertaining than you'd think. It's just he's always been like that. This thing that
serious
enforcer gimmick that you've expected, and that he is more entertaining. I'll be honest, I was skeptical on Bruce Pritchard having his own show when it first got announced. I was like, oh yeah, Bruce Pritchard's gonna have a popular show, and then it became the biggest thing in wrestling. So
I mean, he's definitely been around for some of the most interesting moments in wrestling. I mean, he was there for the debut of the Shockmaster. They could do a whole episode of that.
And the JR podcast is great too.
I love the JR podcast. Yeah. I mean, how could you not have a good JR podcast? Honestly, But I mean, everybody was joking about it, and I think it's accurate. Like, you need to start with the Psycho Sid story.
Oh, of course.
You need to.
Oh, no.
You think build up?
Because that's like with Pritchard. Everyone was like, why'd you get fired? And they built up to like, you give us X amount of subscriptions, he'll do the podcast on why he got fired. And they got him in like, I remember when they did that, and it was like, they got what they wanted, the reviews,
so you think
in
they're
like
gonna save that one?
A day. So yeah, the Sid stabbing, that they're gonna have to break up. They're gonna have to work their way up to that.
Man,
you can't start with that.
I wonder what the statute of limitations are for assault with a deadly weapon.
It's probably
Because what if this starts open, like it reopens the case?
Serial starts on.
Psycho Sid gets arrested in 2018 or 19. I'm sorry.
No, I think Arn would have to press charges, and Arn. He's not pressing charges 20 years later, whatever it is on that. But I do think it was a smart idea to get in the podcast game. I think that there's so many out there.
Yeah.
And there's so many. I feel like.
Could you? Obviously, I feel like WWE is gonna. They have so much on-screen talent in the sense of hosts.
Yeah, of course.
They have so
guys that are
many.
just sitting at home collecting their downside. Even.
Yeah, and they can, and now they have things to do. Like I'm sure Mike Rome would have a great time doing that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure Corey would love to have a podcast that he doesn't have to pay for. You know.
But I was even thinking more like you get Roman Reigns and like Mojo to do a football podcast. People probably listen to that shit, you know?
Maybe.
Like, if that's, I'm assuming they're going to talk a lot about wrestling, but they should really give talents just like their
Yeah,
own podcast.
I can't imagine WWE would give a platform to talk about how great something else is.
I know, but they should. Like, I feel like that's what podcasting is. It shouldn't just be
I don't know.
Samoa Joe talking about Raw that week, you know?
It might be.
I know.
It might be.
I saw that it looks like only one person that I've seen today confirmed that they're going to be part of the podcast network, and that was Emilio Sparks from the Wrestle Rap podcast.
And you know what? We know that Paul Heyman's just waiting for the right deal for his.
I was totally thinking that too. I'm glad you brought that. I meant to write that down. I was 100% thinking like if they could get Paul Heyman to do a Conrad style podcast with a good co-host, it would be the number one podcast in wrestling.
It would.
I don't know if Paul wants to do it. I also think Paul wants to wait until he's out on his own.
I think Paul does want to do the whole thing. I think he's not an idiot. He sees that this is what obviously sells. But I do think that
yeah, but he likes to stay in the shadows.
He knows how valuable those stories are too. And he knows that somebody will pay the right price for them.
That's why I don't think he'll just do it with WWE. That's why I think that because if he does it with WWE right now, I guarantee you he doesn't get a side deal for being the podcast host. It's just like what you create here, you are an executive here. What you create here, you create here. You don't get more money for it. So I would, if he were smart, he probably wouldn't do it there. He'd wait until he's 10 years from now. Who knows what's going to happen? And
if he isn't murdered.
But you're right. I was honestly thinking the same thing. I thought Emilio Sparks was a cool one. I don't know if Kazim is going to be joining him as well because they also, he was also part of the Wrestle Rap podcast.
Yeah, and he does friggin' Wally Mania.
Yeah, he does Wally Mania as well, which is the WWE lets all their talent go there and stuff.
Which is so silly.
But yeah, Emilio tweeted saying, "And so it begins," and then Kazim confirmed that that's what it was for. I'm excited. Honestly, the thing I most want is two things. I want a new version of the Legends Roundtable that they used to have on
WWE 24.
There we go. That's what it used to be called. WWE 24.
24/7, I think it was.
24/7.
Yeah.
Their old cable network thing.
Yep.
That was like
the Michael Hayes show.
Yeah, that was my favorite show. I loved that show.
I call it that because he was on every episode.
He was, and he was fantastic on it. Because that was the other person I was thinking more for a podcast.
Michael Hayes would have a good one.
He's already the podcast world loves him, and he hasn't even been on a podcast yet.
Yeah, like he's a podcast celebrity. I don't think he's even spoken on.
Exactly. I think he did like one intro for what something to wrestle once a long time ago. But yeah, he's another one that I thought that's why with Heyman and Michael Hayes there, I thought maybe a Legends Roundtable might be more likely than a Heyman podcast or a Hayes podcast. They just get him in a room for a weekend. They record a ton of episodes. Then they have 12 weeks of this Legends Roundtable.
You see, to me, I feel bad for. I don't feel bad for them, but I just see that if this is treated the way everything else in WWE is treated, it's just another thing in that long day when they arrive at TV that they're going to have to fucking do. Because if you don't think that at whatever studio arena they set up, that there's not a podcast room, the way they knock out those documentary interviews and shit, it's just more things that they have to do before showtime.
100%. That's 100% what it's going to be.
It's
100%. 100%. That's why I laughed too. I was like, oh man, all the wrestlers look at this like, oh, we have another thing we have to do when we get to Raw.
Remember that we would have to go find, like it was a game almost, because wrestlers would know when it's time to do pre-tapes and they would hide. They would literally hide. It was, who is the best hider? Randy Orton.
I believe that.
He is the best. If you need him for a pre-tape, you cannot find him anywhere. He is so good. He'll hide in the fucking seats. Like he doesn't care. And I think this is just another thing. They're like, oh my God, I just want to hang out and do nothing, but I'm being called for a podcast interview about fucking the Three Faces of Foley at 4:30.
That's 100% what it's going to be. It's a new thing on their app schedule. Where it's just like, oh shit, another thing I have to do. I completely agree with you. Although I do think in the long run it'll be cool for wrestling to have like an official WWE podcast network. I also want to see more produced podcasts, like the serial type things where it's like, it's not just two people talking. It's not just a current events type of thing. I love produced podcasts. Post Wrestling did one documentary on the passing of Owen Hart, which was fantastic. Such a sad thing, obviously, but it was just so well produced.
Who did this?
Post Wrestling.
I didn't.
It's a website. It's another website.
Is it on their podcast? It's a podcast.
It's a podcast. It was on the anniversary of his passing a few months ago.
I would love to see it.
I'll send it over. It was really. They interviewed a bunch of people for it and it was edited well together. It was done very well. Very
interesting.
So yeah, I really want to see more of that as well. Lastly, I want to.
And also, that's just another way to do. Because in my opinion, dude, I'm sorry, I can't do watch-alongs with a video. I can't do it.
I hate it.
I can't do it. So I think if they find a way to do the watch-alongs the way Bruce does them, like where you can
just listen.
You sync them up and you press play. Because I do those. Those are fun. Have you ever done those?
I can't.
They're fun.
I can't.
I enjoy them.
You do the watch part?
Yeah. Like I'll sync it
like
up.
You've sat there in your living room and
I'll have
put the TV on the thing and then listen to your podcast?
Yeah. I'll either have it on my headphones or I'll have the podcast airplay to my home speaker.
That makes sense.
And so it's playing throughout the house. So I can hear it. It's like the same level of audio.
Yeah, I don't think I could do it.
It does suck, though, when you get a phone call.
Oh, and it fucks with the whole tracking.
The whole tracking. And that's the worst. I have to figure out how to do it. The only way I could think that would not happen is I have to get an actual laptop and not my iPad Pro.
Yes.
Because that doesn't get phone calls on it.
Well, you can still. Like my computer gets phone calls to it.
I need to figure out how to stop that because sometimes
you can.
I'm sure you can, but it's the worst because it's so hard to you have to essentially start over.
That's very annoying. I would definitely not be a fan of that. All right, let's move topics here. Let's move a little bit All Elite Wrestling talk. Tony Schiavone apparently is locked into a deal with All Elite Wrestling, according to PW Insider.
Which I got to be honest, man, I'm happy for that. I am.
Okay, explain.
I don't know, and maybe it's just how he acts. I can't say for sure because I've only had good experiences with Tony. Because when I was at MLW, we talked a few times.
I forgot you worked at MLW with him. You took that glorious picture of him with his hair.
By the way, that's what got him to get rid of it and to lose some weight was because people, when they first saw him on TV for the first time in a few years, they were like, yo, he has not seen a mirror in a minute.
Yeah, that happens.
And so, hey, he looks great now.
He does.
Yeah, and I thought I just felt bad because everybody who has been a major part of wrestling, at least back in the day during the Attitude Era, during the Monday Night Wars, they've more or less found things to do still nowadays and a good paycheck as well. Tony's been the one who has had a hard time finding his feet.
Yeah.
Whether it be it took him getting the job at MLW, which I'm so happy that Court signed him and gave him something to do. That was really nice of him. Or it being
he was doing local baseball before that.
Yeah, and
Starbucks.
Yeah, and I felt and I love the fact that AEW used him for that control room type thing. And then when I heard that they were going to switch over to what's his face, the guy who makes the videos,
Chris Van Vliet.
Yes, him. When I understood why. It made sense, but I felt bad. I was like, God, there's got to be a place for Tony. There has to be. He was hired originally for a reason. He could talk, and I just think that if he does have some position in All Elite, I'm all for it because I just want people to get paid.
Yeah,
especially if they're good.
It looks like they're trying out different people in the control center because they had Tony, they had Chris. This week they had some girl I'd never heard of. doing it. That's not to say she doesn't have credentials. I just had never heard of her.
The reason why it makes me happy that anybody who has ever given anything to the business who deserves it, by the way, let me preface that, who deserves recognition, I think deserves it, and I mean needs it, and I think that I think with I'm trying to say this correctly, but yeah, I mean I'm all in all I'm just happy that Tony's. Oh, I remember.
Okay.
So what makes me happy about this whole thing when people get paid and are recognized for what they do, for instance, when Peter Avalon, he's a friend of ours, when he got signed to AEW, I was proud of him that he got to take off that Uber sticker on his car.
Of course.
And I brought this up before.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's cool because nobody wants to see Batman taking the bus.
Of course.
Nobody wants to see that.
Of course.
Nobody wants to see The Undertaker driving a cab.
No.
And so if we can facilitate ways to do that and to make them so they don't have to do that, then, I think that's all the better.
Okay, well, let's go into fair. I agree. From a fan perspective, just like
of course,
a person who loves wrestling, you want to see people you respect.
Who, as far as I can tell, from an outsider's perspective, have only given to the business.
Yeah.
And hasn't really received as much love in return.
Okay, but from a perspective,
a production perspective,
yeah, or a visual perspective, I do think that they're going too hard on the WCW aspect of things.
I could see that
because that's to me. I go, look, I get it. You love WCW. Your dad was, a big part of WCW. These are the people you grew up with. But
I understand what you're saying. I think they're using a lot. It's not even just a lot of old WCW. They're using a lot of old wrestling.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, when they had Earl referee the main event, Earl Hebner. Mm-hmm. Earl Hebner's a legend. Don't get me wrong. Of course he is. Did he need to main event that match? No, he really didn't. And I think they brought him. And also, I could see what you're doing. I could see what you're saying.
That's how I look at it. When I look at it, I go look, I obviously grew up listening to Tony Schiavone's voice. I watched WCW for fun, just at home when I'm going to bed. I think he's a great announcer. But also, he was part of the losing team. I just think that you go, I don't know, you're going to bring Mark Madden in next? You
can't compare them both. They're different.
I mean, obviously, Tony Schiavone is more respected in the industry than Mark Madden. I know that. But I don't know. I just feel like if you want to be the alternative, if you want to beat WWE, if you want to start making a change, you would think that you want to go with the future as opposed to the past.
It's just what I think. I don't know if it's necessarily a mistake because I think it's yet to be proven if it's a good thing or not. I don't think we really have because we haven't had full AEW yet.
No,
the full realization of the company.
You can't consider the pay-per-views that.
No, I don't think so. And I genuinely think that we haven't seen too much talent signed that they're not friends with. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, of course, yeah. But they have so many announcers right now. They've got JR, Excalibur, Alex Marvez. Now they've got Tony Schiavone. They've also just signed
they
that.
Haven't said what Tony Schiavone's role is yet.
No, they've also signed Golden Boy, that guy who was who did Fyter Fest. He just announced yesterday that he got signed to official contract. That's 5 announcers just right there. You're right. Tony Schiavone has not been announced. My guess, if I had to guess, is he's replacing Marvez.
Really?
I mean, if I had to guess, this is just my hunch. I don't have any insight into that, but
are people really not liking Marvez already?
I haven't seen one person that said anything positive about Marvez's commentary.
Really?
I haven't seen anyone say anything positive about it. Anyone. I've just seen
people
people say
him a shot. He's only done it 3 times.
I've just seen everyone be like, he is rough. I'm just saying what I've heard everyone say. I don't think that he necessarily meshed well with Excalibur and Jim Ross when I was listening. I thought Jim Ross and Excalibur actually meshed very well together.
I think JR's really I think people are giving JR way too much shit. I think he's really starting to get the swing of things. Because people are like, oh, you don't hear as much passion. You don't hear as much... You heard passion because he was legitimately had relationships with these people.
Yeah.
Like when Mick Foley fell and he said, good God Almighty, he was legitimately worried that Mick was dead.
Yes.
You know?
Of course.
After a while, he will have those relationships with these people.
Of course. Yeah, no, of course.
So that's why I think like people were like, oh, JR doesn't sound like old JR. Like, give him a minute, dude. Like, he's learning these guys' names still.
Do you think, though... Okay, here's my other question. Is the look of the announcing important? Like, if you've got a bunch of elderly dudes... Not elderly. I don't want to use the word elderly. They're not elderly. If you've got a bunch of older dudes that aren't necessarily like young, like camera-ready people like you have in WWE. Does it matter?
Here's the thing about that. It's kind of you get where in one area you get some things, you lose it in the other.
Yeah,
I think that applies to that as well. When you get the youth, young, like pretty-looking motherfuckers, they're aesthetically pleasing, and people probably like looking at them a lot more. But when you got JR, Jerry Lawler, even Tony Schiavone, are all these guys who have, like, I think if you get rid of them completely, the commentary lacks because you don't have that seniority. You don't have the guy who's been around and seen everything.
That's why I feel like a mix is what's most important.
Absolutely.
And that's why I feel like Schiavone fills the same role that JR is filling. Like I don't that's why I don't know if he's going to join the commentary team. What do you think you have him do?
There's many other things he could do.
Like what?
He could do backstage announcing.
They've got 5 of those too.
They have 5 of them?
Jen Decker, Alicia Tout, Chris Van Vliet, okay, maybe 4, not 5.
Well, we don't know what he's going to do. I just don't think he's going to... I don't know if... adding him to the commentary table is... You get 2 old guys from the same era, generally from the same area, and not area, like both like worked in the South for X amount of years. Yeah. And I think that it would kind of be a step back to kind of put them both in the same thing because it is. It's you need your straight guy who's JR.
Yep.
You need your color,
which is Excalibur,
and then you need
play-by-play kind of.
Yeah, and then like a young guy.
Yeah,
and
the guy who can like throw the commercials and all that kind of stuff.
What's his name? Todd Phillips.
Yes.
Yeah.
The traffic controller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to do.
Me neither. I tried to find out. Cody did a Q&A today.
He's just not answering his phone anymore.
He did a Q&A today for Bleacher Report Live, and he was very coy on the Tony Schiavone front. Like, it was like, what's up with Tony Schiavone? And it was like, where'd you hear that rumor? Well, if he is coming, I would say he's starting very, very, very soon. Wink, 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 wink. And it was like, okay, so Tony Schiavone is signed with AEW. I'm interested to see. I really, at this point, we're getting so close to the TV show that I'm tired of just like, discussing what the TV show's gonna look like. I just want to see one already. I'm so tired of like what it may or may not look like.
It's gonna be a fun day.
It's gonna be a very fun day.
Because Joker comes out the same day.
Oh, is it the same day Joker comes out?
I think it's October 4th, right?
October 4th. Yeah. Yep.
I think Joker comes out October 4th too.
Yeah, because October 2nd is the Smackdown on Fox. So yeah, October 4th. Yeah, that sounds right. It's gonna be interesting.
October 4th.
I can't wait.
It's going to be a fun day.
I really can't wait.
Joker and AEW.
Joker, AEW. The Wednesday Night War kicks off. So many things. I love it. Lastly, I want to talk about one more thing. We got like 5 minutes. What? Wait, who's that? Okay, sorry. There was a story this week that I was so fascinated by because it's been so under the radar. Did you see this thing with the colognes in Puerto Rico?
Yeah. I thought it was old.
Right?
I thought it was an old picture. I thought it was like from that period of time where they were unsigned and they got re-signed again.
I was like so confused when I saw it.
Because they had Primo, but then they signed Epico later.
Yes.
And so I thought it was like, was this before Epico came? Like, I was like, when was this?
I was also confused. And then I went and looked at their cage match profile, and they've had like a good handful of matches in Puerto Rico for WWC while still working for WWE, which I thought was so fascinating. For those of you who maybe didn't see it, I posted a story this week where Epico Cologne captured the WWC Universal Championship on Saturday, and he's got an upcoming match against Primo.
Against his tag team partner.
And apparently it's the first time they've ever gone up against each other, which I thought was kind of cool too. Also I looked, Epico's been on WWC TV in Puerto Rico now for like over a month. Like he's been like main part of their show, running angles, doing things. I assumed I was like, oh, so he must not be under contract anymore. And like I look at
still is.
Nope, still under contract, which man, like I think that's so smart of WWE to do. We're not using them anyways. Let them go help build their territory. It might help their international expansion. Now you've got two guys who are under contract that are helping with your Latin America type stuff, with your Latino or whatever, Puerto Rico. You got it's smart in my opinion. They're building up another promotion that was already their father's promotion that already has a deal with WWE. So in theory, if done right, these guys could also be part of the tiered package that WWE Network is working on. You wouldn't want to.
No, I have just a fucked up joke in my head. I'm just picturing it's a phone book on a pole match. First person, they can put it in their pants so they don't get
stabbed up in the locker room on the way out.
Because that's what prisoners use as body armor.
Is that what they use?
Yeah, they use books. They use when
I used to work at TMZ. This guy, one of my coworkers, Gary, he did a story on this guy who was cellmates with one of the Menendez brothers, and he had like a whole chapter on prison recipes and like how they would make things with what was available in commissary.
Man, when you got nothing but time on your hands, you figure shit out.
Totally, it was so fascinating. Like he was like how they make wine in jail, like how they make like risotto in jail with like like cup of noodles packets.
It's like when people are like, I'm doing a hip hop reference, so you're not gonna know this. Like when people like Gucci Mane got out of jail, and he's like, I'm vegan and sober and jacked now. It's like, yeah, okay, I'd probably be too if I couldn't drink, couldn't eat what I wanted, and then
I know who Gucci Mane is.
Name one Gucci Mane song.
Isn't he the guy you wore in the shirt of this weekend?
That's Cameron.
Oh, damn.
So, no.
Shit. Jamie, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at JAMIE_IOVINE or on Instagram at JAMIEIOVINE. Check out Network Daily for either a drop or a raffle drop. We do those almost every day now. So there's programming every day. There's not drops every day, but there's drops around 2 to 3 times a week of exclusive or early items you can't get anywhere else or before market. Or we do these raffle items as they've been getting really a lot of traction. We're really proud of them. That you enter the raffle and you get to win a highly sought after collectible item, whether it be a shoe, a toy, or whatever, some part of pop culture history that is usually reselling for about $50,000. But if you win, you buy it at retail, which is a huge day, which is a huge deal.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like for instance, somebody got the Nike Air Mags, which if you're a shoe collector, that's one of the hardest shoes to get. The Back to the Future shoes.
Oh, what?
Those are reselling for about $52,000 right now.
That's how much those resell for?
Yes.
What?
And somebody just got somebody just got them for $150.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah. So enter Network. And also check out Championship Wrestling from Hollywood every weekend on many platforms. Check out me and my upper class. We're back in the swing of things, man. We have the TV title back.
Good. I like that new shirt you're gonna drop too.
Yeah, the
extra cooler one.
Thank you, Extra Cooler, for designing a cool shirt. It should be up this week. I submitted it, so we're waiting for approval from PWTs. So.
He was pumped when we talked about it on the show.
Yeah, and gave him some. I mean, people hit me up asking about him a few times. Hey, who is that guy you talked to on the podcast? And
nice, yeah. Shout out to Extra Cooler, that guy's awesome. You can find me. I'm at Ryan Satin on social media. ProWrestlingSheet.com. That's the website where you can find all the top stories in the world of professional wrestling throughout the week. At Wrestling Sheet on social media. YouTube.com/C/Wrestling Sheet. That's where you can find the videos. You can see our pretty faces. You can see us emoting all these different emotions while we're talking. Go check it out. YouTube.com/C/Wrestling Sheet. Subscribe while you're there. Like the video if you feel inclined to do so. Comment if you've got something to say. I appreciate it all very much. Also, if you just want to listen to the audio of these shows while you're driving, working out, cooking, doing whatever, just search Wrestling Sheet Radio on all the biggest podcast platforms. All right, that's it. We're done. Officially tapping out for now. Until next time, stay out of the dirt and keep your eye on the sheet.